Start the lights.
Oh, yeah. And I think it was his first exposure to towards the nature.
Oh,
That
had
way,
it.
you know,
Had it.
that was,
And they had a prominent spot.
oh, yeah. It's nice when, you know, Colin is from.
Yeah.
You know.
Because they're kind of all those along the windows, and it's up a couple of steps. There's a really narrow, kind of really narrow corridor behind that rail, so. When you got into it, you can't get trapped.
Did your group take care of my charge stuff for you? Is that
What
separate?
happened?
Well, I got a thing this week, you know, to switch over to it, you know. University campus health system because they went to my chart instead of the other thing, so I had to go in there. And I couldn't get it to take anything, and so I had to call them, so they gave me a temporary thing.
Oh.
And then I got right in after that, it worked, I mean, it worked good.
They don't want you calling. Yeah.
City people or?
I don't want anybody calling me.
I kind of like it.
Email.
I like it. Me too.
I've never used it.
Yeah, I haven't tried that part yet.
Yeah.
I work there, but I don't go there.
What's that, I'll be with the city, actually. We done have.
Makes sense.
Out of town elsewhere that was like kind of.
Honestly,
It's like,
Like I owned a
yes,
restaurant.
I was concerned
Oh.
for those nurses.
Oh.
The type of emails that they send
Just-
makes me question the type of healthcare they're giving.
All right, I have 7 o'clock. We will call the November 7th DeSoto City Council meeting to order. To start with roll call, please.
Lane,
Yeah, here.
McElrain,
Here.
Carmichael,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Tripp,
Here.
all present.
All right, I would invite you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approved minutes from the October 17th City Council meeting, approved pay ordinance number 984, approved funding request from DeSoto Arts Council, approved lease for Parks Department mower, approved proposal from Premier Contracting, Inc. for the Community Center Roofing Repairs Project, approved contract with ETC for the community survey, and approve the updated organizational chart. Is there any item anyone would wish to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
McElrain,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? All right. I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on. Item 3A, old business. Consider ordinance 2631, rezoning Clearview City from C2 to PD. While I'm not directly involved with this project, the company I work for is working on this project, so I'm gonna leave the meeting. Similarly, item 4A is also affiliated with my employer, so I won't be here for that one either, so I'm gonna turn it over to you.
All right. Mike, would you like to, is it you or?
I think Brad can introduce this one, yeah. Brad.
All right. Thank you, council. What you have before you is a request from C2 Business Journal to Plan Development. This is the Clearview City project. We've had discussions with the developer for years off and on about rehabbing, improving, redoing this whole area, and I think we're finally at a point where it's come to fruition. So Dave Rhodes is here tonight, also consultant representing Dave is also in the audience. If you have any technical questions about the engineering, they're available. And then Dave about the process of going through what he had to deal with the State Historic Preservation Office. As you may or may not know, Clearview City is on the Historic Register of Historic Places. And so that adds another layer of complexity to this whole project. And it's also zone C2, commercial, so it's a non-conforming existing use, even though it is a multi-family development. You know, initially we had talked about going to R3, but because of some of the complexities with the Historic Preservation Office, can't change the width of the streets, the parking arrangements. Our code doesn't allow to back out in the public right-of-way. That's how all the parking is set up out there. Additionally, concrete masonry units will be the final structure. That's what the residents will see. It will be returned to that CMU finish. So those are basically the three things that pushed it into the PD, because going to do with the R3, it just would not have met our criteria. Then we would have to go through some sort of variance process, and it just seemed a whole lot easier to go to PD and get these items through the Planning Commission and ultimately to the City Council for approval. And part of this is because it does need to match for our building official to be able to issue permits, needs to match the zoning code, and all those criteria that we have within our city code needs to line up for the building official department to be able to issue building permits. So, long story on how we got to the point where we are moving towards a planned development process. We did go through the typical notification of neighbors, property owners nearby. Also, the applicant did hold a internal meeting for the residents there. Wasn't a whole lot of comments, very little input was received, and I have not received any negative comments about this from the general public on this item. A couple things I want to talk about the plan development summary. There are actually 4 phases that we've talked about with the developer, but phases 2, 3, and 4 are not included in the PD. There will be some pieces that will remain C2 in the project, and only 1A, B, and C are part of this plan development. And the A, B, and C just delineates the phase approach to what the areas which will be developed first or rehabilitated first. Roads and alleys will be reconstructed, primary thoroughfares. As I mentioned, there's going to be also a difference in the street widths. Our standard collector width is 28 feet. In this case, they're going to be 24 feet, which would meet our criteria. But once again, this is one of those hard, fast things. The Historic Preservation Office has got to be exactly what it was. So either A, that's another reason we went to the PD, was because it does give the Planning Commission and ultimately City Council authority to deviate from some of those items. And therefore, the roadway widths on the main roads, Village, Blueberry, as you can see, Lakeshore will be 24 feet from back of curb versus 28 feet. As I had mentioned, off-street parking, we don't allow in the right-of-way to back into the street, except in front of City Hall and also downtown. But anyway, that's not something our code allows anymore. There'll be community dumpsters, all the things that we would typically look at in an R3 development have been looked at here. As far as also, there's another requirement for the PD, the 30% open space. In the area around there where it says A2, there'll be basketball courts, picnic shelters, some of those things like that. And then also the A3 area will be open space in general. So it does meet the 30% open space requirement in the PD. The architectural standards, I had mentioned the exterior of the buildings, and I apologize, Mike, I'm kind of jumping around.
So I'm trying to follow.
But I'm just kind of, trying to hit some of the items that I recall from Planning Commission discussion, why We were going through all this process, the concrete masonry units. Right now, some of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Davis, has a stucco kind of finish on the front, but it'll be returned to kind of what you're seeing right there, where you'll actually see the mortar and the pattern of the concrete masonry units. That was part of also what was negotiated with the Historic Preservation Office. The landscaping, there is a landscaping plan. Of course, there are a lot of mature trees already out there, so the landscaping that is in the package really just sort of enhances and improves the existing vegetation that's out there. One thing also we talked with the developer about was the alleys, things like that. Those will remain privately held, so the city is just taking on the rights of way. And then, of course, ultimately, this development right now is utilities go to a series of lagoons, and when these sewers are put in, they are part of the benefit district, and they will attach to the city sewer system. So a lot of these things have been discussed and worked out, a lot of questions at the Planning Commission, but I'll briefly just run some of through the compatibility factors. As far as the surrounding area, there's a lot of large lot residential, light industrial uses, but as you know, we've approved a lot of R3 in the area. There's M1 light industrial in this area. The other thing about it is our land use plan, as it's shown, it's multifamily. So even though it's been zoned C2 commercial for as long as I can recall, there'll be no change in the land use, so there won't be any real change to a lot of items in this area when we talk about public safety and all those issues, parks and recreation programs, things like that. Because it's already what it's going to be, it's just being improved and changed to a PD. It isn't changing the land use in any way. The property's been zoned C2 for many years, but it does need some rehabilitation, and once again, that's why we're going to the PD district to allow for some of these differences in what the city code would typically allow in an R3 to accommodate the historic preservation issues surrounding this location. Utilities, I'd mentioned those. Electricity's already in sight. All the water, sewer lines, everything's being rebuilt and improved to current city standards. Also, there was some requests at the Planning Commission that the fire chief be informed about the narrowness of because the alleys in the roadway widths are a little bit tight. Some of the setbacks aren't quite as what we normally have. And there is a letter of support from Fire Chief Maxton about this development. So developer's been very forthcoming, up forward. The requests that the Planning Commission made were met. And ultimately, the Planning Commission did recommend approval to the City Council for the change to C2 to PD, because there really isn't a lot of change as far as there will be more units, about a little over half, and I mean, I know it changes, but there'll be about 340 new units or rehabilitated units. So there, it's workforce housing, and because of also the RHID factors, there will be some caps on rent, so it really is workforce housing. Something that we've talked about quite a while with multiple committees and planning commission meetings and at city council about making sure we can find places for workers, potential employees to have an affordable place to work. Another thing about having it close to Panasonic, it's an easy walk, a bike ride. There's a lot of benefits to moving forward with this plan. So normally I'm not as quite as animated about these things, but this is a good thing for this area. And it's also a good thing for the developer. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions? Dave, would you like to say anything, or are you good?
I'm good.
Nobody has any questions? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a,
Yeah, there is an ordinance in the
Yeah.
packet, yeah.
There you go.
it's the right ordinance number. I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2631, adopting the Planning Commission's recommendation and to approve rezoning the 70-acre tract of land located at 36 000 West 103rd Street from C2 Business General District to Plan Development District.
I will second that.
Roll call?
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
McMorran,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. That, that's the old business, new business. Item 4A, public hearing regarding ordinance 2632 vacating public easements at 34040 West 90th Street, being the residents of Lexington. Is that
Yes, Council. Patrick was involved with the ordinance here in this latest effort. I know, Patrick, I see you're online there. Patrick, and you unmuted.
Sure.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for allowing me to participate remotely. But anytime we have a public easement, the statute requires that we hold a public hearing, and certain findings are made. So in section 1 of the ordinance 2632, those are the findings you are making by passing this ordinance. Practically speaking, these easements only came to be by virtue of an old development that was going to be developed on this property, another apartment project that never got off the ground. So these easements that you're vacating are not needed for any public purpose, and they are preventing the developer or the residents at Lexington from closing their loan. So this process is just to essentially clear those off of this land so that they can close on the loan and proceed with the development residents at Lexington. So happy to answer any questions.
any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry. This is a public hearing, so we'll need to
okay.
open the public
Oh.
hearing. Yeah, and we did the agenda a little different. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So normally the public hearings are at the front of the meeting,
Yeah.
and we hold those, and then we get to our new business and discuss it with Brandon, the mayor. There's no practical statutory reason we can't just hold these hearings as the agenda items come up. So that probably is a change we'll make. This one we wanted to do it because the mayor had to be out of the room, recuse himself. So it was another reason we wanted to do that this way. So you may see this in the future as a practice to have these public hearings at the time that we act on them in the new business.
So we'll
Yeah.
open the public hearing?
Yes. Yeah, so if anybody's in attendance that has any input, anything to say about this matter of vacating the easements, we'll hear that now. I don't see anybody online, so
Nobody there? We'll close the public hearing.
thank you. Okay, now we can
Now
consider
entertain a
action.
motion.
So now I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2632, vacating certain utility, sanitary, and drainage easements that are associated with the old original Brady subdivision.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
McMorran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
With that,
Very good.
Ready for 4B.
all yours again. All right. Item 4B, consider final draft of the 83rd Street and Lexington Avenue corridor study.
Mayor and Council, thank you. Tonight, we have the final draft of the 83rd Street Lexington Corridor Study. July 18th, we had the original presentation of it, and there were a couple of comments that were expressed during that time. The consultant went back and has made changes based on those comments, And we have with us tonight Jeff McCurry to make just kind of a brief presentation of the changes that were made and then ask for your approval to accept this final report.
All right. Good evening. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, good to be back in front of you again tonight. And again, we'll kind of hit the highlights of our previous meetings. We'll certainly able to go into any details if you'd like, but we'll try to keep this moving along here. So we'll quickly review a little bit of the input we had and then focus on what changes we made with the guidance you all provided at our last meeting a few months ago. It's input there. If you'll recall, we had a lot of public engagement. On February 17th, we had a public meeting. We also, during that same time period, had a lot of stakeholder engagement to bring in people. We had a online meeting also that was open for comments to bring that forward as we moved and to hear what they had to say for those who couldn't attend in person. Some of the concepts initially presented, tied up there a little bit, but we talked about some different right-of-way, different boulevard options or multi-lane sections to get those feedbacks. Go ahead to the next slide. As we've talked about, we didn't necessarily get strong preferences in a lot of directions. The difference between a boulevard and a 3-lane section was pretty equal from what we heard from people, but it really depended on where you're at. The closer we were to K10, the more preference there was for a boulevard, and as we headed further to the east, the more rural areas, more of that rural 3-lane or 2-lane section. We also talked a lot about bikes and peds and different treatments, different provisions, got a lot of input on that as we went forward at that initial meeting and then clarified even more as we went forward. We talked about roundabouts, same way, pretty divided or pretty staunchly in favor or against or neutral on whether or not we like roundabouts or traffic signals. Taking that information, we presented a different, some refined options in June at a public meeting that we held here and kind of revised this a little bit based on those initial comments that we heard. We really had a boulevard section from K10 up to the Railroad Bridge. Then we looked at a 3-lane section from the Railroad Bridge up to really the end of the development that we have here in DeSoto at Karras Street with a multi-use path as well as a sidewalk, and then more of a rural 2-lane section as we headed to the eastern city limit. Again, we held online comments open for about a month, tried to solicit input from the public as well as we went through there. Go ahead, Mike. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Oh. These look great. Hopefully they came better in the report that you're seeing. We have those online for you, but again, just an example of what those cross sections looked at.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. We'll just keep rolling, and the
Power
next one's
through.
kind of talk about the changes and what we've implemented to that.
Do you want to just skip through all these?
Yeah,
then,
skip
Jeff?
through those real
Okay.
quick. Kind of the summary of the comments we had. We did get a little bit more clarity at that public meeting about preferences on bike lanes as well as sidewalks and trails. We did, and we had a lot of conversation with this body about the intersection there at Lexington and Pinner, and we'll show you some of those concepts that we've since refined since then. So when we got together in July, we really talked about several different things. One was buffered bike lanes, so providing those throughout the corridor. It was your preference by and large as a group, and that we maintain that on this corridor. We talked about, while there was some general consensus about being acceptance of some of these roundabout locations at like 83rd and Waverly and 83rd and Kill Creek, just the recognition that as the design progressed would really get into those details to confirm their viability. We also had some conversations about, if you recall, we got some driveways that are opposite Laramie Street. We proposed at one point combining those driveways to a single option. I think a lot of the council recognized that that wasn't a preference. That is something that it just recognized that as you move forward in design, we're talking about a lot of details and some confirmed surveys and really getting into some utility issues to make sure that we could keep those, or if we have to combine them or not, or what other options there might be. So that's a question that's not fully resolved yet, just because a lot of detail that it'll take once you get actual hard survey and begin that design process. And then lastly, and this is something that we worked with city staff on here, is to come up with some additional options at Lexington and Pinner. We'll highlight those here for a segment in a moment, hopefully, to talk to you about some different concepts the staff is going to be able to have conversations with the school district about. Some of it impacts their property more than others, and we'll show those here very quickly. So we talk about the rural bike lanes. This is basically the concept that we're dealing with. In the rural areas, you would have two 12-foot lanes. You would have a buffer in between, and then the actual bike lane to provide for that on-street, those more advanced bicycle users, to give them a safe option with the speeds that you have on this segment of 83rd Street. We've highlighted before, I do want to highlight again, that this is a condition in which on a maintenance side, it's going to be important for the city under this concept to continue to provide active street sweeping to keep those bike lanes clear. You do run the risk, a little bit less at some of the higher speeds that we're seeing on here, but at the lower speeds and all that, you start to get a debris buildup, and even avid bicyclists won't necessarily use these bike lanes if you don't keep them swept. They'll still hug that center line because the volumes and the speeds of the traffic will keep the debris off. So one recognition for that in this condition. When we move to the 3-lane section, I think is the next slide there, how that looks out with the driving lanes. And in the 3-lane section, we would maintain still a trail on one side of the road that would be much more accommodating and much more accepting for the more or less experienced and younger bicycle riders, but also provide those on-street facilities for the more avid bicycle who really isn't safe or desired to ride on a trail anyways. And to keep that moving forward. That concept then would continue on into the boulevard section, if you will. So these are some of the concepts that we talked about last time moving forward. We did make one change at the intersection of 83rd and Lexington. We've actually shifted the roundabout that was shown. We had a lot of concerns, and they're well brought up about access to the north and even the single-family home that's over there. And recognizing that we could move this roundabout just a little bit down and actually provide a better, cleaner access for that area. So a little bit different, more refined concept that I think addresses some of the concerns that we heard from the public as well as from the council last time. Going to present 3 different options here for the intersection at Lexington and Pinner. One of these, this first one, is very close to what you saw last time, but it keeps the intersection where it is today. Talking about signalization of that, but it's really reconfiguring the school district's parking lot and changing how they would flow up in this area. So this is one of those concepts that will be just a discussion point between staff and the school district, talking about different pros and cons and how it impacts them moving forward. Another option that we took a look at, and this really we started to recognize could come into play if we made some additional changes on 83rd Street, and that's actually raising the grade of the road a little faster. When you come away from the railroad, right now Pinner is relatively high compared to 83rd Street at the location we have. We need to start to flatten those out a little bit. We've actually got room to work as we reconstruct 83rd Street, starting at the railroad and moving towards Pinner, to bring that up a little quicker, still within acceptable design standards, and kind of offset that difference a bit and make this more of an acceptable solution. And then the third option, a little bit more creative, and of course this is the one that's blurred out.
It's just blurred.
It's,
sorry.
Yeah.
What page is that?
16 in her packet.
Yeah, I think that whole presentation is in the packet.
It is.
Oh,
I was just
let me go
asking.
to that then. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, page 17. Yep, right there.
There we go. This one actually starts to look at a transition from that boulevard section to the 3-lane and utilizing a multi-leg roundabout. This is much bigger than the roundabout you have today that's out there. But as we raise that grade, it enables something like this to actually start to become effective. Plus it recognizes that that southern entrance or exit from the school is an exit only. So it's just one way outbound, and how we could actually work with a roundabout concept to make this as an option that would work. Roundabouts with schools can be very effective to kind of balance those fluctuating travel demands. So this is one we think is an option that could be considered and talked about as well moving forward. And with that, I believe that The final one was some of those high-level cost estimates and the recommendations for those next steps. These are largely unchanged as you saw last time. It's to look at that, some preliminary engineering studies to refine that, get a little bit more detail on this. And that will begin to position you for federal funding and competitive grants through Mid-America Regional Council to look at implementation and construction ultimately. So with that, happy to take any questions. I know I went fast through this. Mike, thanks for pulling up the report here in case people want to see more details.
All right, questions from council?
I will add real quick that we did provide these layouts to the school district, so they're aware of that and understand that whenever we get to this point, they will be heavily involved. So will the businesses on the other side of the road as far as what final decision is made and how that's gonna work.
Yeah, I was seeing that middle one,
It's Exhibit 30 that has the signal, creates a right-in, right-out situation for Dollar General, which would probably be problematic for them.
Yes, it's not as ideal. You'd have to look at some cross accesses to get better. You might be able to keep some access open, but it is a little bit more of a struggle for them.
Yeah.
And the driveway access for the residents by Laramie, that was pretty much would have to wait and see based upon engineering, utilities.
Yeah, there's a lot of, we're getting to the area where we're dealing with inches to figure out how to make this work. And we just don't have that level of survey at this time to really get into that. It's something that could advance at that point, so.
Detailed design phase.
Yes, yes.
Joe, correct me, I don't think that we're asking for any action from the council, just acceptance of the study as the final form.
Yep.
And then that would allow us to really kind of pursue these funding opportunities that Jeff
Yep.
talked about a little bit. I would assume the next phase would be a detailed preliminary engineering design of a segment or the whole corridor or something of that nature. Start to have those discussions.
Want a formal motion of acceptance of the report, or what do we?
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine, if you feel compelled to do that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think we've studied it. I'm probably not gonna learn anything new, continuing to have Jeff come talk to us more.
I do enjoy it though, thank you, Matt.
I'll make a motion, we accept the 83rd Street corridor study report.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? All
All
right.
right.
Thank you, Jeff, for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, item 4C, considered final draft of strategic plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In August, we presented you a draft of the strategic plan. Council provided feedback and input into the plan, including updating some data and some enhanced community outreach. Since August, staff has been working with Shockey to update the data and start a detailed community engagement process, not only with the general public, but with the advisory group. Molly is back with us to walk us through the 18-month process and go over the results of the feedback study and answer any questions you have. And following her presentation, if appropriate, we ask that you make a motion to adopt the strategic plan. So with that, I'll turn it over to Molly.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me back. It seems like I'm in the long series of people you've heard from several times, so I won't belabor this because I know we've gone over the contents of the plan, but I do want to just do a quick review of the strategic planning process, what the plan does include, how the council prioritized items, and then what the advisory group and community had to say about the plan. So really, the planning process has included a number of steps. One was the establishment of the advisory group, which had 30 members, and they held 3 workshops. There were community surveys about topic areas, and And those helped create the structure of the plan and the sections that were included in it. And we had 328 people respond to those surveys. The Planning Commission and City Council have had workshops on this. And then, as Brandon said, in August, I was here, we reviewed a draft, and there was a desire to update some of the data, which we did. Some was just, there was newer data available, so we included it. And to also give the community advisory group an opportunity to look at the plan to see if they had any urgent issues. The intent wasn't to change the wording of things and make small changes, but really to give direction in the implementation of the plan. And then tonight, it is about adopting the plan so you can move forward with it. So as a reminder, the plan sets forth a vision for the community, and I won't read it to you, but it really is about what you want DeSoto to become. And as you're experiencing a lot of growth, it's going to have some challenges. So this is kind of the North Star for you to use as you're making decisions going forward in the future. The plan establishes values, and these are really the guiding principles that inform decision-making. And sometimes people say, well, why do we even have these? Some of these are obvious. Of course, we're going to be, concerned about safety, but sometimes it's good as you're making a decision or when there are difficult decisions and choosing between a couple of options to refer back to the values and making sure you're selecting the vision or the decision that is most consistent with the values. There are 3 sections to the plan. One is community, the other is about built environment, and the final one is about economic development. And for each of these sections, a vision, the long-term outcome or desired future is defined. And then for each of the subpoints in the section, a goal, which is your long-term desired outcomes. What are we pursuing and working toward were defined. So these are the ones for the community section. In the built and natural environment, again, setting forth the vision, and as you are growing, considering, are we working consistently with our vision and the goals that we set forth with all of the items included in that area. And then finally, economic development. That one is probably the most straightforward of all the chapters, having 3 goals and defining what you want the economic future to look like. In May, we got together and the council, this was one of the workshops, and had a prioritization exercise where you put dots on the items that were included in the plan to identify priorities. And the top priority was public safety, followed by city services and infrastructure. None of them were runaway, not everything got all the dots, but those were the 2 that really stand out. And when I talk in a second about the community feedback, it's a lot of consistency with what the council indicated. So we surveyed the advisory group because they were involved in the process, making sure that we kind of circled back and made sure they had a chance to see what the plan looked like. There were 30 members, we got 7 responses. So, I can't say that this is something that you can say, this is a perfect representation of the entire advisory group, but it does give us some indication of how the advisory group felt both about their process and how the plan addresses the issues and how they prioritize them. So again, the advisory group identified infrastructure, city services, and public safety and crime as top priorities. So slightly different order, but mirrors what the city council prioritized. The community, 15 people responded. Just as the last presenter said, there was community input on, a corridor study. There's been community input on a number of things. I think Whitney said that they had tremendous response to a pumpkin contest. So, sometimes the public gets a little tired of being asked what they feel. And so getting 15 responses is not what we desired, but we were glad to get it. We reached out through social media, signs, and then with the advisory group, they received a couple of emails directly. So the community, when asked what their priorities are, city services, again, topped the list, along with education and public safety and crime. So again, maybe not a representative sample. If the person from ETC is here, they would say this is not statistically significant. And you all received a report that we provided to Brandon earlier in the week that has all of the detailed comments and responses. So after this, the desire is for you to adopt the plan, and then the next step is for staff to take the plan and turn it into an actionable work plan that will be presented to you. I don't know what your timeline is, Mike, but
January, February.
January, February, we'll have a work plan that aligns to the strategic plan so you can keep track of progress moving forward. So with that, do you have any questions, comments?
Questions for Molly? Council.
Not a question, just a reflection. It was interesting going through some of the feedback. It was, I think, a reminder of how much, the timing of public comment can influence public comment. Of course, particular developments called out, boil order called out, which, really, just as a good reminder for all of us as we kind of go forward with other areas where we're collecting community feedback. If you have a road under construction and you're asking about traffic in the city, that's going to color the response. If we're asking about some of these things, right as we had a couple of things happen, I think definitely colored some of the feedback significantly because it's top of mind that you just had to boil your water for a few days. So that was just one of my reflections. And the other thing that I as I looked through the feedback a couple of times, I think, as much as it was so important to get the community engagement in developing the plan, I think a lot of them, as I read through the comments, this is kind of a big vision. And I think a lot of them are what I read into some of the comments and feedback is they're looking forward to seeing how it's implemented. Like, how does this become a real improved road or better safety in town or, one of the other things we've set forward. So I look forward to moving this forward to work plan stage. I know it's taken a while to get here, but I think it really captures our community well.
Any other comments? Questions? All right, then we would look for a motion to adopt the strategic plan.
I move to adopt the DeSoto strategic plan as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right.
Thank you all.
Item 4D, consider task orders 6 and 7 with GBA for 5 Mile Sewer and Wastewater Treatment Plant projects.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. So task order 6 and 7 replaced what was task order 5. And we decided to break task order 5 so it'd be a little easier to track for some reimbursement for some work that's being done with Panasonic. So in specific to task order 6, it really focuses on the southwest area where GBA has helped the city with new development and looking at sewer rates, or helped us with plan review or site optimization, depending on the technical difficulty of the projects. And so we wanted to separate the task order 5 into 2 separate task orders. This is generally for work, smaller developments and newer developments that are coming into the city. Their fee for this is $35,870. Originally, we approved their task order back in April 2022, originally for $50,000 to assist the city with ongoing development. This task order would continue that, in the amount of $35,870. Attached to it is the task order that lists out the different tasks to do. Basically, doing some project management, overseeing this, meeting with KDHE on new developments, and plan review if needed, collection system plan review. If we have new developments coming in or a new area that wants to develop, to look at what that flow may be and what the potential sewer improvements would be, construction phase plan services if needed, and development review for sewer flow capacities. So tonight, asking for approval of task order 6 in the amount of $35,870. We do have a member, GBA, Gary Beck here, if there are specific questions in regards to this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions too.
Okay. Any questions on task order 6?
And this is reimbursed by Panasonic?
No, I was gonna mention, this would be your regular city budget, consulting, assistant to outside consultant services, this one.
Yep.
That's
The next
why-
one would be.
Partly why we broke the services out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I assume it's an hourly work since it's dependent upon what comes in, right?
Correct.
So is the 35,870 like a budgetary max as opposed to hard number?
So that would be the max for this contract.
It'd be
yeah,
the
and it's
max, but it'd be hourly,
Yep.
hourly to a max.
Yep.
Any other questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve task order 6 with GBA in an amount not to exceed $35,870 and authorize the city administrator to sign.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
McMoran,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
So the second one for GBA is task order 7. So this task order specifically for work they are doing in relationship to the 5 Mile Sewer. So being the owner's representative on the construction of the lineal, helping us with a little bit with HDR on the lift station. And then as it relates to some of the work for the new wastewater treatment plant. So these costs would be reimbursable from Panasonic, and that's the reason we wanted to separate out task order 5, so it'd be easier to track these costs to be able to provide to Panasonic for reimbursement as we do the billing for their services related to the 5 Mile Sewer. And so their tasks are within this task order broken out specifically as related to the 5 Mile Sewer work. And so tonight, asking for approval of task order 7 in the amount of $77,550, and for the city administrator to execute. And this task order here would be reimbursed back through Panasonic for DBA acting as our owner's rep for this project.
Okay. Any questions regarding task order 7?
Yeah, same question. I assume this is also hour and expense, just as it goes along, it's hour and expense, and so that
Yeah,
77,550 is a max.
Yeah, after that, yeah, we would have to come back for more, but based on what they did on task order 5, they've listed out their task and are comfortable that this will get us to the end.
Any other questions? Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve task order 7 for GBA in an amount not to exceed $77,550 and authorize the city administrator to sign.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
McMoran,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Tripp,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 4E, consider proposal from Freeman Concrete for sidewalk replacement project.
Thank you again, the trifecta night. So we went out for bids for the sidewalk repair program. We've got repairs back in Timber Trails and then along Lexington. We sent it out to several bidders. We only received one bid back. That was from Freeman Concrete. They were the low bid on the project earlier that we did this year. And looking at their budgeted numbers, or their bid numbers for here, for this one, they're actually less than the bid numbers earlier this year, so concrete prices must have come down a little bit. And so anyway, within the presentation is the contract, and then the map that kind of shows you the sidewalks back in Timber Trails and then along Lexington that will be replaced. The budget's kind of broken up. We have funding in the CIP for Timber Trail, and then we have the funding within the general fund for the rest of the sidewalk repair. And so tonight we ask for approval of the bid with Freedom Concrete in the amount of $85,809, and authorize the city administrator to execute. We will, contractor intends to start with approval of this here in a week or two and then be done within like 30 days. So, and they did a really good job earlier this year on our sidewalk program. They were really quick and worked well with the residents.
Okay, questions for Joe on the sidewalk bid?
On Lexington. Bring up the map. Is the yellow, blue, and orange the areas that they're going to be doing?
Yeah, so it's the orange, blue, and then the yellow toward the south end
Okay.
are the major areas along Lexington.
And are those
So
just
they'd mark out.
repairing issues or?
It just, the crack and settle, tripping hazards, a lot of it.
Okay.
Misaligned panels or broken panels?
Yep.
That blue right across from WIA, is that,
Yeah.
that constant problem?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the constant
Backslide.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, the yellow down by Harps, I was trying to remember what really was down there, because is that the east side or west side on the sidewalks down by Harps?
That'll be along the east side.
Okay,
Yep. So it's gonna be the trail, the 10-foot wide trail.
okay.
This in
You
here?
can kinda
This
see
one
some
right
of it.
there.
Yeah, there's a broken panel and there's.
Our guess is those from work that, I don't know if that was Evergy or whether that was another utility company, but outriggers from their trucks. Generally, we try to catch them if that happens and make them responsible. Someone went there and broke it without us knowing.
Scoundrels.
Any other questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Freeman Concrete for $85,809 for our sidewalk replacement program.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Tripp,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
McMorran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 4F, consider bid from Blue Valley Public Safety for weather warning siren installation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is our 2024 CDBG project, and we did go out for bids. This siren is located at approximately 103rd and Edgerton Road in that vicinity. As you recall, we wanted to put in 2 sirens and went through a whole process with the county. And at the time, they said the sirens had to be within city limits. And the area we wanted to cover was 99th and Waverly. But because of the spread of the siren, it spilled over into a different census block. And the county said, can't do that. So we only bid 1 siren, and the bids came in, as you can see, pretty well. We actually had $83,000 from the county, or through that, they managed the CDBG funds. And so I did ask them, can we relook at that? So we're working on a solution, potentially. They might have seen the light, so they might allow us to build in the county right away about 102nd Street in Waverly, which then pushes that ring around where the 1 mile radius around the siren, which is what they cover. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about that, but we got really favorable bids from Blue Valley Public Safety. And actually, Federal Signal is a supplier, so they're working together. Apparently, Federal Signal has all the Davis-Bacon Act requirements and the SAMS.gov registrations, all those types of things that are necessary. So they're actually and they are the provider for the equipment. So, but Blue Valley Public Safety is who we deal with on all our sirens, and so they've been very forthcoming. I've not dealt with anybody at Federal Signal, however, the conversations I've had with Blue Valley Public Safety have been really good. We did bid out the project, didn't receive any bids, but I got a lot of interest from people. And then when the bids came in, we only had one. But the price is certainly very good. It's half of what we're expecting it to be roughly. And I would recommend that we accept a bid not to exceed amount with a 10% contingency of $41,959.69. And hopefully we will be back with another bid for you in a month or so if we can get this worked out for the second siren at about 102nd and Waverly.
Okay. Questions for Brad?
And that second siren would be out of the 83,500.
Correct, yes.
That's been awarded.
Absolutely.
Motion.
I'll make a motion that we award the project to Federal Signal and Blue Valley Public Safety in the amount of $38,145.10 plus a 10% contingency of $3,814.51, not to exceed the amount of $41,959.61 to complete the weather warning siren at 103rd and Edgerton Road.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
McMorran,
Yes.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Honeymichael.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Brad. Executive session, we do not have one at item 5, so we'll go to advisory reports. City Administrator.
No report, council, just, I will be out of town next week, so all week long.
Is that a conference or vacation?
It's a vacation.
Okay,
Down
enjoy your
to
vacation.
Nevada. Yep.
City Attorney, anything from Mexico?
Nothing. I'll be back on Monday. Thanks for letting me participate remotely.
All right. City Planner, anything to add, Brad?
Not tonight, Mayor.
All right. City Engineer, Joe, what do you got?
So probably the best thing is that Clarkson is targeting for next Friday to open up the southbound lanes, Lexington. So we'll be on the right side all the way from Lexington, well, actually from 95th Street, all the way to Edgerton Road. I think they'll still have just a one-lane traffic, but it should be open as they finish up striping and probably a little bit of dirt work. Their plan is by the end of this year, they'll all be done between Evening Star and 95th Street.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. City Assistant City Administrator Brandon, what's on your mind tonight?
Just two quick things. I did want to kind of publicly thank former council member Lloyd Murdoch. She came out at 7 a.m. and gave flu shots to all the staff members that volunteered to get them. So I wanted to kind of publicly thank her for that. And then the other thing was, it's just been 1 year since we did our UTV program, and I did survey all the permit holders. I think Councilman Honeymichael, I'm guessing, did you fill one out?
I did.
I was looking at this today and I noticed one that might be yours. And so we had very positive responses, just looking at 1 year out. Of the response, I think we had 17 responses and only 2 said they weren't going to renew. And both of them mentioned that they had sold their UTVs. So overall, really positive. We did reach out to law enforcement to see if there was any improvements or any kind of communication we needed. Haven't heard anything from that. So overall, really successful program, and we're looking forward to starting again next year in January. So
How many permits are issued?
we've issued 51, if I remember correctly. So just crossed that 50 threshold.
All UTV or any golf cart?
Mixture of UTV and golf carts.
Okay.
Vast majority UTVs. I'd say we probably have 5 or 6 golf carts floating around.
And if you haven't noticed on social media that Force of Nature is having a UTV ride-in on Saturday,
Did not.
Saturday afternoon. Check it out.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Council comments. Kevin, you want to start?
Sure. I got a topic to bring up, the advance in terms of council processes. Mayor, I've mentioned a couple of times that we ought to figure out how we're handling the council president position and situation in terms of terms and process. So I wanted to throw out a suggestion on council president process, and that is that we set a term of 1 year or until their successor is elected. This would correspond to the cadence of the Planning Commission chairman, which is a statutory 1 year term. I would suggest that the election of council president occur on the first Thursday in December to correspond with the timing when the council member terms start during election years. And I would suggest then that the nomination for council president be made by the mayor, since it's sort of the mayor's fill-in type position. But that way it comes up every year and it kind of gives a chance for some rotation and transition throughout the council. So
Okay.
I'd like to throw that out for consideration just as a process to adopt.
Sure. Before, Patrick, so if we wanted to modify how we do that, what would the process be for us? Is it just a city ordinance to modify what we have in our code? It's not a charter ordinance change or anything like that, is it?
It would be a charter ordinance, because the statute simply says that the council elects the president. It doesn't have any
Okay.
terms or anything. So, but no problem. I can bring that back if that's something we want to
Okay.
do.
All right. Other thoughts from, feedback from council? Any? I think we, at a previous discussion, we'd had, when we considered that, it would certainly be something we considered like an organizational meeting every year. So I think formalizing it in the ordinance would, make sense, to me anyways. Rob, any thoughts?
Not right now.
Okay.
Should I
Maybe you want to,
forward an email, Patrick, just of what I rattled off here?
Sounds good.
then we can have it for discussion at our next meeting.
Okay. Will do.
Is that, you got enough time, Patrick, to do that?
Yeah. Nope.
Okay.
And then I was just gonna say how exciting southern DeSoto looks with this traffic lights, or the street lights energized out on Lexington and 103rd. It looks totally different out
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
It's like a big time street. isn't
Big
it?
time.
Wait till we get the big snowflakes on them.
Oh, yeah.
We don't
That's all I got.
We'll wait till next year on this stuff.
Courtney.
Two things. One, I will be absent from the next council meeting. I've got a industrial water reuse conference to attend and lead a roundtable at. So I'll be in Southern California for that. And then just wanted to say we, really appreciated I was trying to double check the dates because we had a kind of extra week between council, and I was like, it's been since the last council meeting that we had the ribbon cutting and the kind of town hall session, and I just thought that went really well. I know wanted to commend the team and Whitney and everyone who worked on that, because sitting in the audience and watching people's reactions, it did make me smile a few times how fast phones were going up to capture pictures of the PowerPoint slides as things were presented, but definitely seemed like a really good engagement, and it was really fun to see how many people came out for the ribbon cutting and engagement downtown beforehand, and how many of us were trying to make it to 3 events at once that evening kind of thing, but it was great to see the town both full of life downtown and people engaged in a public forum like that. Seemed to really be appreciated. So.
All right, thank you. Rob?
Just to comment on traffic dealing with Panasonic, and not a bad one. Last Thursday morning, I think it was, did a run from Lexington Lake down to 95th Street over to Edgerton Road up to 103rd to by Panasonic to Sunflower and back at about 5:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning. So right when a lot of the construction and heavy traffic is, and it was, one of the notable things was that the traffic getting off on Edgerton was increasing quite a bit from where it's been, which was a good sign, because the more that the traffic uses that as an offset, that'll take some off of Lexington. So it was encouraging to see the amount of traffic starting to use Edgerton to 103rd to get to Panasonic.
Yeah. Great.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, yeah. Cars will eventually, like, it's like water, right? You just find that
finds
easiest
its-
path. And,
When they find it's easier that way.
yes, all right. Victoria, any comments? No. All right. Danny, anything for the
Nothing
group?
for me, Madam Mayor, thank you.
You know, I don't think I have anything tonight either.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, we're adjourned.
We're doing this.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
Do you have a minute?
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Going to, I forgot my report. I should have mentioned. KDOT's having an open house on the K-10 study this next week. Yeah, I'll send an email out.
You're on consent, all you do is.
I think so.
Yeah, the one locally Wednesday is at the high school.
Yeah. I'll get an email to my.
You're moderating.
You're on consent, basically.
Mayor, you kind of found something.